The band is Tally Hall, the time limit is 13 minutes, and the year is 2002. Rob Cantor is attending the University of Michigan with his high school pal and former bandmate Zubin Sedghi. Rob was majoring in molecular biology, while Zubin majored in plain old biology. Where they differed in studies, they found common ground in music. The same goes for composition major and roommate of Rob, Andrew Horowitz. The trio got along fabulously and ultimately decided, as all young men do, to form a band. But three's an unlucky number, so Cantor used his persuasion skills to introduce a good friend of his, Joe Hawley, into the fray. Joe was a strange character. A film major, Hawley was primarily focused on his comedy troupe Anonymous before being asked to join the band as rhythm guitarist. Nonetheless, Joe settled in nicely with the crew and even chose the name Tally Hall, crediting it to the title of a shopping mall which once harbored strange attractions. Hey! Come on, let's not get distracted, we're on the clock here. As many of you already know, the forming of the band was not yet complete. Tally Hall is a 5-membered band. These aren't fingers on the hand of a Simpson, the pinky matters. Thankfully, it wouldn't be long after Hawley's entrance to the band that the gang would get its drummer. You know him, you love him. He wears a gray tie and has an R in his name. Steve Gallagher. He was replaced by Ross Federman 2 years later. With Federman in the fray, we finally had all 5 gems on our gauntlet, each color-coded accordingly. Lead guitarist Rob Cantor, yellow tie. Bassist Zubin Sedghi, blue tie. Keyboardist Andrew Horowitz, green tie. Rhythm guitarist Joe Hawley, red tie. Drummer Ross Federman, gray tie. On top of that, we've got an honorary member, Bora Karaca, who sports an orange tie. Although he doesn't play any instruments, he serves as the band's mascot, documentarian, secret puppet master, and all-around lovable scamp. Together, the band played small shows around the Ann Arbor area of Michigan. Though at this point, Tally Hall wasn't much more than a side project the crew did on the weekends. That would all change, however, when Andrew Horowitz received the BMI John Lennon Scholarship for his song Good Day in 2004. This was a personal victory for the band, with Joe Hawley crediting this as the moment they realized Tally Hall could be taken seriously. Though, I doubt many of you have heard of the BMI John Lennon Scholarship before this video. Like I said, it was a personal victory. It wouldn't be until March of 2005 when the band's real big break came. Remember a while back how I mentioned Joe Hawley was studying film and had that comedy troupe? Yeah, well, with that initial interest in filmmaking came experience in uploading shorts and skits and the like to this blossoming small community called the Internet. Eventually, Joe Hawley decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He and his friend Jennifer Hardiker filmed a silly music video for the band's track Banana Man. Hardiker would submit the video as a project for her Video Art 2 class, while Joe would upload the video to Albino Black Sheep, a popular video sharing site in the era before YouTube. And, against all odds, the music video blew up. It's difficult to say exactly how many views Banana Man got at the time, but it was well in the thousands, and according to Joe himself, the millions. This was a sign. By now, Tally Hall had already produced 2 EPs, but these were small scale, burned on CDRs with basically no info on the wiki's small scale. It was only after they had this initial tango with success and they signed with indie label Quack Media in 2005, the band actually buckled down and made a serious attempt at a studio album. Ultimately, what they produced was Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. When the real-life Tally Hall shut down, all the strange attractions and oddities were moved here, and the band couldn't help but pay respect. Turns out the name was the easiest part of the process, however. Completing the album was a hell of a task, worthy of its own video. It ended up costing triple its initial budget, and took the band members pulling a lot of strings just to get it finished. But the effort paid off, with the album releasing on November 22, 2005 to what we can assume was a warm reception. To this day, it's rather hard to find critic reviews for any Tally Hall projects. What I can say with confidence is that it's a cult classic. This album established what makes Tally Hall so special. The various members of the band on this album, just these 3, would all go out and write songs separately. Then they came together as a band and tweaked these songs to make them the singular vision of Tally Hall. MTV would later describe their sound as a mix of Queen, the Beatles, and Weezer, but the band ultimately came up with a new word to describe their sound.
The Blue.
Weird, one-of-a-kind, and unchanging. Until September of 2006, when the band made a few changes to the album and re-released it. Jokes aside, we still don't totally understand why the band re-released the album at this time, though it does coincide with Tally Hall finding national success. They made an appearance on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson and scored a couple interviews on MTV, with them continuing to find thousands of fans online. Tally Hall was really growing up, but their next big project suggested otherwise. This is Happy Monster Band, a Playhouse Disney baby show about monsters that sing about friendship and chores. The show aired from October of 2007 to October of 2008 and featured original songs written and performed by members of Tally Hall. Not featured in the sense that they got other bands to show up from time to time, this was a Tally Hall project, with Rob, Zubin, and Joe voicing 3 of the 4 main characters. To this day, I can't find any information online as to how or why the gang got involved with this show, but I'm sure it's the last time any member of the band ever worked for the Disney Channel ever again. Wink. 2008 would be a big year for Tally Hall all around. In March, Bora Karaca, the band's mascot, who I haven't mentioned in a while, started documenting random bits of the Tally Hall experience, usually little goofs from time in the studio or on tour, and he began uploading them online under the title Bora Logs. These were just a few of many Tally Hall video projects the band were doing at the time. Even outside of music videos, the gang always had comedic inclinations that they'd let loose through YouTube and similar services. A great example of this came when the band signed with Atlantic Records, and you're not going to believe this, re-released Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. This time, the changes weren't minor, with the band re-recording several tracks, changing the cover art, and adding new tracks. The best part of it was the release date, April 1st. To commemorate and promote the re-release, the band uploaded an April Fool's prank video. Look at these silly fuckers messing around. They should make a web series about this. Oh, snap! Titled Tally Hall's internet show and released weekly beginning in late 2008, the series was actually pretty good. Although it occasionally featured music videos by the band, it was mainly a sketch comedy show, with the members of Tally Hall serving as the main cast. It's honestly some of the best comedy to come out of this era of the internet, being something akin to College Humor's old Hardly Working videos or Smosh. For as important as it was for the Tally Hall fanbase, it only ran for 10 episodes, concluding in early 2009 with the episode Good Night. Oh, speaking of the fanbase, they would never forgive me if I didn't mention. The ending of Tally Hall's internet show came just before an announcement made by the band in mid-2009. Sources are conflicted on whether the band first made the announcement on Facebook in April or Twitter in May, but the only one I could find were these tweets from May 6th. Look closely and you'll see that Tally Hall were prepared/waiting to record a new album. They intended for this recording to happen sometime in the summer, but ultimately the task fell in October, with the band announcing on Facebook on the 18th that Tally Hall begins recording our second studio album tomorrow. The next week, they posted a photo of the studio bathroom that sadly has been lost to time, but thankfully we still have access to Bora Logs 6 through 9 that fully documented the recording process. Still, the bathroom picture is a devastating loss. Outside of the usual studio shenanigans that occur with a band as silly as Tally Hall, production of their second outing went off mostly without a hitch. Like with Marvin's, what would later come to be known as Good and Evil was defined by the perfect blending of the individual talents of the 5 band members, including now bassist Zubin Sedghi, who wrote 2 songs but performed lead vocals on 3. Even Ross Federman got in on the action this time.
The wind knows, the wind knows.
He's a great drummer. We mustn't also forget that Bora made his big musical debut on the album, providing whistling on Him for a Scarecrow and backing vocals for Turn the Lights Off. How integral were these 2 contributions? I can't say really, but I just love that I've said Bora's name in this video more than any band member. Things from this point on get murky, however. I don't want to get too deep into the details, but on January 29th, 2010, the band announced we've completed production on our second album, January 2010. For the next year, updates would be sparse. This was the least the band had posted on social media for pretty much the entire time they had been on social media. It wouldn't be until June 21st, 2011 that their second studio album, Good and Evil, was released, nearly a year and a half delay. They never gave an explanation as to why, but in hindsight, this serves as some great foreshadowing for the fate of the band. For now, Good and Evil was out, and was met with a similar fan response to Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. It did receive 1 negative critic score, but this outlet also thinks Weezer's Teal album is better than OK Humans, so they're stupid and can't be trusted. For the next few months, they did the usual musicians rigmarole, going on tour and playing for whatever semi-mainstream outlets would accept them. Their status remained pretty cultish even then. Still, on the day of Good and Evil's release, it outsold My World 2.0 by Justin Bieber on iTunes. Really, that was the only thing the band was setting out to do anyway. But the band's situation wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. In October of 2011, they announced that the music video for the album's second single, And, had been abandoned, blaming the downfall of the project on limited resources. The band started to slow down completely around this time as well. There were a total of 3 Facebook posts and 2 tweets in all of 2012, and in 2013, there were 5 Facebook posts and 1 tweet. By 2014, their social medias basically began to serve the singular singular purpose of promoting the band members' side projects. There was never an official announcement, but Tally Hall was on hiatus. I can't find the exact quote, but Rob Cantor has been quoted by several outlets as describing the band's situation as hibernation. And that's mostly how they've stayed, to this day, 11 years later. Since then, Rob went on to upload a few successful music videos on YouTube and ultimately released the album Not a Trampoline in 2014. It was met with moderate audience reception. He mainly does kids music for the Disney Channel now. No, I'm not kidding. Joe Hawley also released his own studio album that received far less attention, though he's best known outside of Tally Hall for spearheading the band Miracle Musical. Their first, and to this day only studio album, Hawaii Part 2, is actually a fan favorite and has a few hits on its belt. He shares the project with Tally Hall alums Bora Karaca and Ross Federman. Speaking of Federman, he went back to college. He dropped out for Tally Hall but returned and graduated in 2013 with a degree in molecular biology. Today, he occasionally DJs, but is more focused on his scientific and medical work. According to Joe Hawley and several sources online, he was actually a bit of a key player during the COVID-19 pandemic. Though, funnily enough, Ross wouldn't be the only doctor to come out of Tally Hall. Founding member Zubin Sedghi also returned to college and is now working as a family physician in Southern California. We mustn't also forget the soft-spoken keyboardist of the group, Andrew Horowitz. Today, he performs under the name Edu, under which he has produced a couple of projects that have been received warmly by fans. And last, but certainly not least, Bora Karaca has managed to keep himself very busy this past decade. He was a producer on Hawaii Part 2, an engineer on Not a Trampoline, one of the cameos in Shia LaBeouf Live. He played accordion and bass guitar for Joe's song Rotary Park. He fronts a band called CojumDip and streams on Twitch under the same name. I'm glad to see that the 2020s have been kind to the members of Tally Hall, but interestingly, this decade has also been very kind to Tally Hall. In early 2021, Ruler of Everything went viral, mainly on YouTube, Reddit, and Twitter. With hundreds of memes being made, Ruler was propelled to be the most streamed song by the band on Spotify. Fourth most streamed. Wait a second. I don't remember seeing any popular videos featuring these top 3 songs. If they didn't go viral on YouTube, Twitter, or Reddit, then where did they? Oh, no. TikTok. Look, I know it's popular and very stereotypical for nerds like myself to hate on TikTok, but it's been instrumental in showing Tally Hall to an all-new generation of listeners. We are in the midst of the Tally Hall renaissance, and videos like these are the reason why. Who knows, they may even be the reason why the band eventually makes a comeback. That really is the unknown factor now. Sure, the band never officially broke up, but they did move on. Rob has a kid, half the guys are married, and they're all pushing 40. This era of their lives may just not have room for Tally Hall. Maybe. Or maybe they really are hibernating, in the midst of a long and deep sleep. I believe it was Napoleon Bonaparte who, following a visit to Ann Arbor, Michigan in 1817, said, "Let Tally Hall sleep, for when they wake, they will shake the world."